Do you ever wonder if it's too late to start again, when the world tells you your time has already passed? Most people assume that success belongs only to the young, but history disagrees. The truth is simple yet powerful: the best time may have been years ago, but the second best time is always today. Colonel Sanders, who built KFC in his mid-60s, is living proof of that truth. He was not rich, he was not young, and he was certainly not famous. All he carried was a battered suitcase, a pressure cooker, and a recipe that no one seemed to care about. Yet what he lacked in resources, he replaced with persistence that would outlast rejection. This unlikely hero shows us that courage matters more than age. This is not merely a tale about fried chicken, it is a story about human resilience. It is about a man who refused to let repeated failures write the final page of his life. It is about the courage to begin again when most people would have stopped forever. And it is about you, because his story asks the same question: what are you still delaying? Sanders was born into a poor farming family in Indiana. When his father died at the age of 6, his childhood ended instantly, because someone had to cook for his younger siblings. While other children played outside, he stood by the stove, learning recipes from necessity rather than passion. Responsibility came far too soon, shaping a life filled with hardship. School never worked out for him, and by the 7th grade he had dropped out entirely. He drifted from job to job: farmhand, streetcar conductor, railroad fireman, never finding stability. Every attempt seemed to collapse before it began. To most people, he already looked like a man destined for failure. He tried law school, but he fought with a client and lost his chance. He sold insurance, but he was fired. He started a ferry boat business, which eventually sank into debt. Again and again, his life taught him one painful lesson: failure was relentless. At 40, he found some stability by running a small gas station. There, he began cooking for hungry travelers who passed by. His fried chicken slowly became known in the area, which gave him a glimmer of hope. Yet hope is fragile when the world seems determined to test you. At 65, disaster struck with brutal timing. A new highway diverted traffic away from his restaurant, and within months his business collapsed. He had invested decades of work, only to see everything disappear. All he had left was a $105 pension check and a heart full of disappointment. Most people would have surrendered at that point, saying, "This is the end." They would have accepted poverty as their final chapter, quietly fading into obscurity. But Sanders looked at his pension check and decided something radical: it was not enough. Instead of retiring, he chose to begin again. Armed with nothing but his pension, he bought flour, chicken, and a pressure cooker. He packed his recipe into a worn suitcase and set out on the road. He slept in his car when he had no money for a motel. Every knock on a restaurant's door was an act of faith that someone would believe in his chicken. Restaurant owners turned him away again and again. Some laughed, saying his idea was foolish; others dismissed him because he was too old. Yet he kept offering his recipe, explaining with patience how it could transform their business. Rejection became his daily bread, but he refused to swallow defeat. He faced more than 1,000 rejections. Imagine hearing no not 10 times, not 100, but 1,000, and still refusing to quit. Each rejection might have crushed his spirit, but instead it fueled his determination. Sanders believed that one yes was worth every no. At last, one small restaurant agreed to try his chicken. It was not glamorous, and it was not easy, but it was real. From that single chance, his recipe began to spread across towns. The seed of KFC had been planted. Kentucky Fried Chicken was born from persistence, not luck. Customers loved the taste, which was unlike anything they had tried before. Soon, other restaurants wanted the same recipe. Franchises started opening across America. Sanders became recognizable for his white suit, black bow tie, and gentle smile. His face was not only the symbol of his company but the face of late-blooming success. He transformed from a man with only a pension check into a business legend. And he did it all after most people thought life was over. His greatest victory was not wealth. It was the lesson he gave the world: persistence is more powerful than rejection. He showed that courage has no age and dreams do not expire. Action, not excuses, shapes destiny. By the time he was 75, KFC had spread internationally. Children in Tokyo, families in London, and students in Mexico City were all eating his chicken. The man who once slept in his car was now feeding millions. And yet, the recipe tasted of more than chicken, it tasted of perseverance. When he passed away at 90, he left behind more than restaurants. He left a story that generations still tell: it is never too late. He left proof that failure cannot kill a determined heart. And he left hope for everyone who thinks time has run out. So what do we learn from Colonel Sanders? That failure is not fatal, unless you allow it to be. That age is not a prison, unless you decide to lock the door yourself. That rejection is not the end, but the test of persistence. He had every reason to quit poverty, humiliation, age, and rejection. But excuses never built empires, and he refused to use them. Instead, he kept moving forward, one knock at a time. And eventually, persistence turned into opportunity. His life reminds us that the world will not always make it easy. Circumstances may be cruel, and people may be unkind. But even cruelty can be turned into courage if you keep walking. Sanders turned loss into legacy. His story is not about chicken, it is about you and me. It is about every dream we have delayed, thinking the time has passed. It is about every time we said someday, when we should have said today. And it is about proving that later can still be enough. Remember the proverb: the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. Sanders planted his tree at 65, when others had already given up. The tree grew tall, gave shade, and bore fruit that fed the world. What tree could you plant today? Every attempt you make is a seed. Every failure is water for the roots. Every rejection is sunlight that teaches you to grow stronger. And every step forward, no matter how late, is worth taking. Your dream may feel delayed, but delayed is not destroyed. Late is not lost, it is simply waiting. Greatness can still bloom if you dare to plant. The harvest belongs to those who begin. So what about you? What dream have you left unfinished because you believed it was too late? What skill have you delayed because fear convinced you to wait? Your answer matters, because your story is not over. Do not wait for tomorrow, because tomorrow is not promised. Do not wait for fear to disappear, because fear never leaves. Begin with what you have, right where you are. Action today is worth more than a perfect plan tomorrow. Remember Sanders' lesson: done is better than perfect. Perfection delays, but progress transforms. The world cannot taste the dream you never serve. Only finished work changes lives. Colonel Sanders proved it at 65. He proved that rejection cannot kill persistence. He proved that age cannot bury passion. And he proved that courage writes history. The world is waiting for your story, which only you can write. So start today, not tomorrow, not someday, today. Because today is the only day that can change your life. Your time is now.